Yo, what's good, everyone? It's DLloyd, man. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've been here, but preseason is ending in the NFL. We're getting ready for week one of the regular season here in 2 weeks. We just started week zero of college football earlier today, and I have some things to talk about, especially when it comes to the quarterback competitions that were happening around the NFL, mainly Shedeur Sanders versus Dillon Gabriel. Who's going to be QB2? I don't think it's going to be Kenny Pickett. So it's probably going to be one of these two guys. And then, of course, I want to talk about Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones. But we will start off with Shedeur Sanders versus Dillon Gabriel. Now, I have seen the performances. I've seen week one. Shedeur Sanders looked really good, in my opinion. He was thrown really into the fire. He responded. He responded the way we thought he would. He looked good. He came out of week one looking like he could potentially have the edge. Then he suffered the injury the next week in practice. Dillon Gabriel got to play extended time in week two. He started rough, then he bounced back. I will admit, he bounced back. He started looking a little bit more comfortable. The comp is typically Tua. He started to look Tua-like, but of course, he still has things to build upon, right? And then we get to week three. Now, a lot of the news was Shedeur Sanders immediately being QB3, which I think is rightfully so. Do we want to talk about what's fair and not fair? We'll talk about it a little later, but you look at it, the reality of it is Dillon Gabriel was drafted in the third round. Shedeur Sanders was drafted in the fifth round. Now, we have the argument all day as to if he should have dropped to the fifth round. I don't think he should have. But the reality is, fifth round quarterback versus third round quarterback. I don't really think we're going to see a scenario in preseason where that fifth round quarterback is going to be higher in the depth chart than the third round quarterback without something drastic happening. And nothing like that happened. So Shedeur Sanders being QB3, I do think is normal. I don't think that's a conspiracy. Now, is it advantageous to Shedeur Sanders? Absolutely not. Now, I've been in a couple position battles in training camp. I know some of you guys play football. You guys probably have seen it as well or have been in it. There's really no position battle, that's truly fair. It's rare. I will say that it is rare. I don't think I've seen one where you're getting exactly the same amount of reps with good on good or good versus good or with the twos or even with the threes. There's typically a little bit of, I don't want to say favoritism, but it's skewed in one direction versus the other. Or somebody has a little bit more opportunities than the other player. That's typically how it works pretty much in every type of battle. This is one of those situations. Shedeur Sanders is not going to get the same opportunities as Dillon Gabriel. Now, when you look at them on the field, I still think Shedeur Sanders played a bit better. Dillon Gabriel could have been a quote-unquote safer play, but he threw a lot of hospital balls. He missed some targets, but he did look good in that 2-minute drill, give him full credit. Now, Shedeur Sanders, he got what I don't want to say exposed, but his weaknesses got highlighted, right? And what are those? We know Shedeur could be an accurate quarterback. He doesn't play with the greatest rhythm in the world, which means when he does not have the blocking and the protection that he would like, he starts to drift in the pocket. When you start drifting in the pocket, what happens? You start taking sacks. And that is exactly what we've seen today. He was drifting in the pocket. He was either taking sacks or essentially running for his life back there. He held onto the ball too long. Receivers did not help. And this is what happens when you're playing with, third stringers. Receivers weren't getting, the most open and the most separation in the world. Again, though, you're also playing against a third string defense. So for him, you've seen great things. There was a couple of drop passes. He had one play where he broke out of maybe 1 or 2 sacks, threw a pass a little bit behind the receiver, but that ended up being a drop. He had that terrible play where he lost maybe about 20 yards on the sack. So you've seen his weaknesses highlighted. That's what happens when you play as the QB3. The third string quarterback really around the league on every team you look at essentially gets that same treatment. Now, it's all going to come down to where you were drafted. I just don't see a scenario where really ever. The quarterback drafted later in the first training camp got higher privileges than the the quarterback, or the quarterback drafted later got higher privileges than the quarterback drafted earlier. I haven't seen it. So I think this is a classic case of that. The main argument again is, should Shedeur have fallen to the 5th round? I don't believe so. But since he's a 5th round quarterback, this is the treatment, unfortunately, he is going to get. Now, what is Cleveland going to do with him on the roster? That's going to be the main question, of course. You have a couple of stuff you can do. You can waive him if you're not going to carry 3 or 4 quarterbacks. I would assume they're going to carry at least 3, maybe even try to carry the 4th, because we haven't seen Kenny Pickett. He's been injured. Joe Flacco, who looked good today, over 40. What are the odds that he's going to play a full season? And if he doesn't, are you comfortable with Dillon Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders going in there and leading you, especially if you have maybe some important games later on in the season? I'm not quite sure. So do you hold on to Kenny Pickett? Maybe. Do you push Shedeur on practice squad? You can, but then any team can come in and they can sign him. Now, when they sign him, he has to go on their 53-man roster, but that is something that could potentially happen. We will see what they will do. It's going to be very interesting. Cuts are going to be interesting. We will see if Shedeur makes that final roster. If I had to take a guess, I would say yes. I think they will at least carry 3, maybe 4. I think there's no way that Shedeur gets released or even goes on a practice squad. I think he makes the roster. I think he's shown enough. I think he's shown that the talent is there. Just like many rookie quarterbacks, he has to work on some things. I think he will. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be a starting NFL quarterback at some point in his career. I just don't know if it's season 1 of his career. So going on now to what happened in Indianapolis. Now, I'm a Titans fan. I'm also a Kentucky Wildcat. Graduated from Kentucky. So my quote-unquote relationship with Anthony Richardson is biased. I'm not going to lie. It is definitely biased. But Anthony Richardson, 4th overall draft pick, that already blows my mind, right? Because I remember watching Florida, Kentucky, and Anthony Richardson had hype after 1 or 2 games, I believe it was. It was early on in the season. I remember watching that game, and it was close for a while, and I was like, I just hope Florida starts throwing the football, because they're clearly running the ball better than they are throwing the ball. Turns out that was Anthony Richardson. So the same year that I was begging Florida to throw the ball with Anthony Richardson was the same year he decided to come out. The same year he was completing under 50% of his passes in some games in college. The same year it took him, 3 or 4 games to throw his first touchdown. That year, Anthony Richardson comes out. We go to camp, and I know you guys remember this. And he hits the ceiling on his pro day. And people talk about the arm, like how crazy his arm is. He does have a crazy arm. And I'm thinking, well, he knows the ceiling is there. I don't see why are we so excited about this? But anyway, he ends up being drafted 4th overall. And we see the same thing again from Anthony Richardson. Now, my thing about Anthony Richardson is, as much as I hated on him in college and him being a Colt, as a Titans fan, I could acknowledge, I could see why people want Anthony Richardson to work. He has unbelievable, rare talent. The problem with Anthony Richardson is he has not played enough games to iron out a lot of the issues that he has. I think just being more comfortable and getting that feel and getting that opportunity every single week to just see different types of disguises and defenses and everything that can get thrown at you as a quarterback, he hasn't had that opportunity to see everything. So what you get from Anthony Richardson is a very inconsistent player. He's a player that's going to give you 1 to maybe 3 unbelievable throws a game, but he's also going to give you 5 what is happening plays a game. And you're going to have to weigh what you want out of that. Now, when you look at the coach situation, especially when you're coaching for your job, what do you tend to lean towards? The player that you believe is a little bit more consistent. You look for that consistency. So, Daniel Jones, another quarterback that I don't think is very good. So, you already have two quarterbacks that I don't think is very good in a position battle. I don't think Anthony Richardson is consistent. I think Daniel Jones is consistently mediocre. He's consistently mid. Anthony Richardson is not consistently mid. He is fantastic or he is awful. There's really no in between. You get an awful Anthony Richardson, you get a great Anthony Richardson. And I think that variable was too much for the Colts. And I think that's ultimately why Daniel Jones got the start, because you just don't know what you're going to get from Anthony Richardson. Now, the next thing, again, is now the trajectory of Anthony Richardson. Does he get a shot at some point in the season? I believe he does. I think that's highly likely. But with Anthony Richardson, who didn't play a lot of games in high school, he didn't play a lot of games in college, and he hasn't played a lot of games so far in the NFL, he needs reps, and you hear that everywhere. He needs to play. And I think that is true. It's going to be hard to really develop watching because he has not played. Now, if he's played a lot, now you can sit back and watch how the starter prepares, how the veteran gets ready. This is not the case. I think he lacks feel at times. And the only way you can really get that is live reps, playing, being out there. Do they treat him differently in practice, even though he's the number 2 quarterback? That is something that they have to discuss and decide upon. I would hope so, because Anthony Richardson does need that opportunity. The talent is unbelievable. It is there. But I can see why he's not getting the starting nod right now. If I'm coaching for my job, I just need consistency. I need to know what is my quarterback doing, and I know Daniel Jones is going to be mid for me. But I know that every week. I'm not planning on great Daniel Jones showing up, but I know he's going to be consistently mid. So those are my opinions on those two position battles. I just want to get back on the camera, man. It's been a while. Talk to you guys. I would love to hear what you guys think about it. Let me know if I'm out of pocket. What's your opinions on the Shedeur Sanders situation? What's your opinions on the Anthony Richardson, Daniel Jones situation? Let me know. I would love to hear about it in the comment section below. As usual, though, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, please do me a favor. Go ahead, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't already. It's DLloyd. I'm see you next time. Peace.